Good morning, my Teaserking family. How is everybody on this Sunday? We lost the Dodgers over. They played a low scoring game, unfortunately. We lost the Florida over, and then we hit the Houston under as they played great defense again. All right. So, a lot of talk on tariffs. Most people do not have a clue. A lot of talk on deflation. Nobody has a clue but us. Um, some stoic for us. We got baseball. We got nothing in football. I looked. Basketball, we can go over the finals. We'll go over it more tomorrow. We'll review what happened last night. So baseball and basketball, football. Like I say, nothing. Just some very bad evaluation on Cam Ward and on Prime Junior. You know, you want a guy who wins big games. Explain one big game Cam Jr. or Prime Junior won or Cam Ward won. If he was so good, why didn't they go undefeated and win it? I think Will Howard's a better quarterback. We'll go with that. We're going to watch Trading Places again just for people who didn't watch it. And I'm going to play that early because I know people watch it. So why don't we play Trading Places and then go into baseball and review the basketball? I want people to catch this at the beginning so they don't miss it. Okay, this is Trading Places. This is comex. It's all paper. They're not trading physical gold. They're trading paper contracts, but there must be a buyer and a seller, and you'll see that's what happens. That's kind of setting the price. Kind of, it's bloated though because they're buying all these contracts, but not the physical gold and silver. Hey, New Line, good morning to you too. We're just going to do we're going to bring comex to you, and then we'll get into baseball and talk about the basketball. So this is what they do in comex. Now, nobody knows what comex is. It's derivatives. Well, it's a derivative. It's an option. So instead of a stock, when you buy 100 shares of something, you're buying an option, which is more risky. You can leverage it, but it's the same type of thing. You're betting Coca-Cola goes up 10 points, and you're going to take leverage, and you make more money if Coke goes up 10 points than if you just buy the stock. It's sort of like these comex. You make more money if you buy it to go up and it goes up than if you just bought the physical. But there's a lot more risk, and there's always a timeline and everything. All right. So first, we're going to explain what's on comex. And then we're going to see how Eddie Murphy handled it. All right.
Now, what are commodities? Commodities are agricultural products, like coffee, which you had for breakfast, wheat, which is used to make bread.
Sorry for the sound.
Pork bellies, which is used to make bacon, which you might find in a bacon and lettuce and tomato sandwich. And then there are other commodities like frozen orange juice, gold. Of course, gold doesn't grow on trees like the roots. Clear so far? Yeah. Good with it. Now, some of our clients have speculated that the price of gold will rise in the future. And we have other clients who are speculating that the price of gold is going to fall. If they place their orders with us, we buy or sell their gold for them. Not the good part. The good part with it is that no matter whether our clients make or lose money, you can get the commissions. Well, said Valentine. Sounds to me like you guys are couple of bookies.
Okay, so I apologize for the sound. Let me redo that. I'll do it later. So what he's telling them is what are commodities. Gold's a commodity, orange juice, coffee, wheat, and bacon. Okay, so those are 5 commodities on Comex. Yeah, I know. I can barely hear it too. I must have had my finger over the volume or something. This next one you'll hear. But so he's saying what are commodities, and then he says our clients tell us to buy or sell. So it's not just JP Morgan buying the gold or selling the gold. It's the clients telling him. And in this case, the clients are China, Russia, India, and maybe the Federal Reserve are telling JP Morgan to buy or sell the gold and the silver. Now, there's obviously a lot of people telling him to sell the silver, and that's what he's doing. New wine. This one, I know the other one's fine, but this one, yeah, I don't know what happened to the volume. So anyway, so if you got it yesterday, you can rewatch that part of it. But it was late in the class, and people might not watch the whole class because I know I go 2 hours. But if you heard it, then fine. If you didn't, otherwise it's on Trading Places, which is on Tubi right now. But to get to it, so there is people giving orders. So why is JP Morgan shorting silver? Because people are calling up, telling him they're placing their order to short the silver. JP Morgan makes commission on the buy or the sell. There are a couple of bookies. That's true. That's what a bookie is. He's supposed to balance his books, and he wins on the juice. And if the books are balanced at $1 million each, he makes 100,000 with no risk. That's why I'm surprised they fuck around with the line so much. Keep it at 6 or 7 or 8, and you win or you lose, and then you make the commission. You're supposed to balance your books. These guys don't know what the hell they're doing. So if the Fed says sell silver and sell 1 million tons of it, that's the order JP Morgan does. And they're shorting the silver. And that's why silver's shorted. Is it from the military? Is it from who? Is it just JP Morgan shorting it? Well, according to this, no, there's somebody placing orders to short it. So in this case, it's JP Morgan. It's JP Morgan giving them the order to sell it. Just a second, Daria. She always hits me right as class starts, but that's okay because it's hard when I don't hear from her. So we've got JP Morgan, Goldman Sachs selling silver. So the question is who's stupid enough to sell it? Now, when silver goes down, goes up like it's been going, these clients are losing their ass on it, right? So the Fed or whoever's saying sell it is losing their ass because the way an option works is the way it is the way the stocks work. So if I'm shorting gold or silver to go down and it goes up, I lose. I mean, I don't know how long the derivatives go for. A day, a week, a month, maybe a quarter. I'm not sure. But there's a lot in there at $22, $25 an ounce silver. And that's not good. All right, let's go to the real part of it. They're in the pit buying and selling. It starts at 102. This is orange juice. So they're buying it because they think the report's going to say the supply short. Real D. So he's buying, forcing the price up. They're going to sell because they know there's nothing wrong with the supply, and they're just being greedy and waiting, which is okay. Okay, notice what he did. He said, I'm selling. So notice there's a buyer and a seller here. It's not just JP Morgan randomly selling silver to knock the price down. There has to be a buyer. So he goes, I'm selling it at 142 because I know the supply is not going to get hurt. So if I know the supply's fine, why is the price going up? It shouldn't be because there's a lot of them, and therefore in heavily supplied things, the price goes down. Oh, like this. Heavily printed, price goes down. It's not worth anything. So he knows because he stole the crop report that everything's going to be fine. There's not going to be a problem. Therefore, there's no reason the price would go up because supply is not going down. If supply went down, you'd be into this. This is low supply, 400. This is Kurt Warner's rookie card and a refractor, I might add. This is when it's limited, this price goes up because there's not a lot of them and there's more people who want it than there are cards, just like the Super Bowl tickets. So you have them buying the orange juice, so let's convert it to gold. They know gold's being printed to death and losing its value. So gold's almost like the crop report came in and heavy frost. No, and there's no frost. And so nothing's going to happen to the oranges. Nothing's going to happen to the dollar. It's just going to keep being printed and printed and printed. And so therefore the price goes down. And that's why in this case, the price is going up because they are printing and printing and printing, and the supply is going up. And the more supply, the higher the price. The supply is up. Yeah, you're printing a lot, so the price goes up because they're not worth anything. So gold, yeah, the dollar's supply is going up, which makes gold price go up because that's how it's correlated. The more dollars printed, the worse, the lower the value, which then makes gold go higher because the value of this is dropping. So it takes more of these to buy the gold. So the gold price goes up as this goes down as they keep printing. And so when the Fed says we're going to keep printing or this or that, then everybody goes, oh, shit, the supply's going up. The value goes down. What do we buy? That's inflation. The dollar's not worth anything. We buy gold. And so in the pit, you have the Federal Reserve saying, sell the dollar or the gold. but everybody else, China, Russia, India, Saudi Arabia, and all the BRICS countries going, buy gold, buy gold, buy gold. And that's why gold keeps going through the roof, because they keep printing the dollars and the dollars aren't worth anything. So as you see, now there's a buyer and a seller. So Eddie Murphy and Dan Aykroyd are going sell. And then there's all these buyers called the U.S. The U.S., the biggest bunch of idiots in the world, are going, oh, I'll sell. I'm going to, they're buying the gold. So they're going to sell the option, because you need a buyer and a seller. Only this time, the people buying the gold, the Russians, Chinese, and they're saying, I want to take delivery of it. There's no delivery on the orange juice. Nobody's sitting there going, oh, I want to take delivery of the oranges. No, because it just settles in cash, right? At the end, they lose all their money and they, guy has the heart attack. But in this world, in the gold world, everybody's going, I want delivery. I want the physical. I don't want your dollars. I don't want your IOUs. I don't trust you. It's not worth anything. I'm taking it. So the question you ask is, why in the hell is the U.S. still selling, still printing money? And well, they don't have a choice. And really, the BRICS countries keep buying the gold. But why does the U.S. keep selling? In other words, there's got to be a buyer, there's got to be a seller. Who the hell is stupid enough to sell in this market when everybody's buying gold and silver? So when a day like Friday happens, you go, how the fuck did silver drop $2? Who's selling it? The only people that could be selling it are the U.S. Everybody else is buying it and taking delivery. So what's really going on doesn't make any sense. Everybody wants silver and you're going to sell it? You're going to short it? You're going to hope the price drops? Yeah, because we got these derivatives at 22 and 24 that we got to get to and get out of. So we're going to keep pushing the price down. Anybody else going, silver's like $500 an ounce and you're selling it for 31, 32? Okay, I'll buy it. Anyway, I hope this volume is better. So there has to be a buyer and a seller. That's what we are establishing here. He's selling the oranges 142, and all these guys are buying it because they think the crop report's bad and it's going to be limited. The supply is going to go down, which is going to force the price up. So they're trying to raise the price, and Eddie Murphy and Dan Aykroyd are, knowing that there's no problem, are now selling. So they sell first and then they buy. As opposed to normal, we buy a stock, we buy Apple at 110 and we hope it goes to 120 and we sell it and we make $10 a share. But what they're doing is saying, well, we're going to sell it at 120 and hope it goes down to 100 and we'll buy it at 100. That's how a short works. It's reversed. You're selling first, then you're buying, because you think the price will go down, because you know the crop report's fine. There will be no problem with supply. Therefore, if there's no problem with supply, why would the price go up? It would go down or stay where it's at. All right. Now, notice the frenzy. Look at the price.
How can the price be going down? Something's wrong. Where's Wilson? What are they doing here? They're selling, Mortimer. Well, that's ridiculous. Unless that crop report.
Now, why would he think that? Beeks had it. So they're selling, because they're going to buy cheap. Now, the price should not be going down now. They're the only ones selling. These guys are all buying. So this price should not be going down. The only one selling is Eddie Murphy, Dan Aykroyd. You see all the people buying. Why would that force the price down? It doesn't make any sense. not until the crop report's been done. So this price should be 140 or 135 maybe. Shouldn't be down to 112.
Gentlemen, the orange crop estimates for the next year.
This is supply.
After calculating the estimates for various orange producing states, we have concluded the following. The cold winter has apparently not affected the orange harvest.
So supply. So what he's saying is supply won't be affected. So therefore, it won't be limited, because if it was freezing and the frost had an impact, there'd be fewer oranges, which would drive the price up, which is why Duke and Duke was buying the price and all these other people were buying the price. They knew the price wouldn't go up because they knew there was no problem because they stole the report. And now they've sold it at 142-ish. Some of it was at 130. Now everybody realizes they were wrong. The people themselves go, shit, we bought, but now there's no problem. Now they're going to start selling because now they realize they're fucked because the price is too high. Unlike what's happening now with gold and silver, or with silver anyway. So now they've sold at 142, at 132, somewhere in that range. Now they're waiting, and then they will buy low, sell high. They've already sold high. Here comes the price down. How about them Cougars? Yeah, you're still alive, Prophet. All right, we'll talk in a minute. So now everybody realizes there's not a problem. They're selling. So now the price going down makes sense, not before. So again, there has to be a buyer and a seller. Now they're buying, and all the sellers are there to sell to them, because without the seller, they can't buy. But since everybody's selling, so they buy. So what's happening in gold and silver? There's a buyer and a seller. The seller is JP Morgan. The buyer, all the BRICS countries. But what you have, if you notice the different times, tonight China will be buying like crazy at these low prices, the gold and the silver. It'll zoom back up. Then Europe gets a hold of it. They want the lower price for I don't know what reason. And then the U.S. comes in. Well, the U.S. is not a buyer of the gold and silver. They're a seller of it. So JP Morgan becomes the buyer, and there's more sell action because of the U.S. most of the time. And that's what happens. So you got three different sections, but China wants the price up because they have gold. In Europe, they don't have any gold. And in the U.S., we don't have any gold or silver. So that's the real problem. But that's who the buyer and the seller are. JP Morgan is either or. So if the U.S. says sell, then they're the buyer. No real gold's changing hands or silver, but now they're asking for physical delivery. So when China buys, they want delivery. They want the real gold. And that's never happened before. It's set up like this. So now the price of orange juice ends up being $29 an orange, I guess. That's because this is how the price is set. Well, this is the stupidest thing I've ever seen. This isn't the way you price anything. This is fucking communism. Well, we won't let the market do it. We're just going to let traders who don't know what they're doing buy and sell commodities to set the prices. This is ridiculous. You would have the market do it. There's a lot of demand for gold. The gold price goes up. There isn't, it goes down. Silver should be $500 an ounce at this point with all the demand. So if you're saying the military needs it and solar panels need it, and it is money, and we are buying it, then who's selling it? Nobody. So why would the price not be higher? And that's where on this, the U.S. is going sell, 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 like Duke and Duke, and J.P. Morgan's buying it. So there has to be a buyer and a seller. All right. And look at the frenzy. Sell, 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 buy. I love when he does that. Buy. See, it seems very emotional. Everybody's buying, everybody's selling at the same time. People get into the emotional. It's ridiculous. This is the stupidest way to do anything like this. And that's it. Now the trading's done, like in 10 minutes. That says 29, I believe, or 26. So they're buying 100-unit lots. The last price, 29. The buy's 29, the sell's 142. They made a few dollars.
We've done for you. Oh, see, I made Lewis a bet here. Lewis bet me that we couldn't both get rich and put you on the farmhouse at the same time. He didn't think we could do it. I won. I lost. $1. Thank you, Lewis. After you. Certainly.
Okay, so let me know if there's any questions to that. Apologize. The first one was really just a setup of Darius showing me it snowed today this is St. Petersburg, and it snowed today. Amazing. See, you get local reports all over the place. Basically, what's happening is this is the stupidest way to. This is not a market price, right? There's nothing free market about the price. Free market about the price is I put this out for any price since there's a buyer, and the buyer says, I'll take it, and they get the card. That's how a free market works. This is not what's happening in comex with any of this oil and coffee and orange juice and bacon, wheat, and of course, gold and silver. None of it is done properly. None of it is done at the market. We go to the market and we go to buy, what do you want to call it? Oreo cookies. And they're now $6 for the box or whatever you call it. We go, no, that's way too high. I'm not paying $6 for it. And therefore, what do? They leave it at 6, but then they go, well, buy one, get the second one half off. So now you get 2 boxes at $9, so it's really $4.50 a box, and you go, well, $4.50, that's okay. That's how we set the prices. We are the market. That's what we do. That's what a free market is. You vote no, I'm not going to pay $6, or I'm not going to pay $3.50 for a 2-liter of Coke, and you don't buy it. Coke is in trouble because they got to sell it. They've made it. They've paid all their costs. They've shipped it. And now if you don't buy it, they lose all the money. because they've given the inventory to Kroger's. And so therefore, the only way it works is they got to make sales. And then they get their money. Well, I guess Kroger's probably pays them. I don't know at what point they get paid. But if the Coke, let's say Kroger's pays them at the time that they deliver the Coke to Kroger's. I used to work at the grocery store. So they'd come in their little, 7-Up trucks or Coke trucks. The guy would take a little wheelie and he'd put it in, and you'd have a pop section in your back room, and he'd put all these 2 liters in it. And I would assume that at the time Kroger's would pay for it. Now Kroger's is out because they paid for all this 2 liter, because Kroger's is the one that orders it. And if Kroger's can't sell it, Kroger's is fucked because they've already bought it. So that's like me, if I paid 40 grand for this card with the thing, I'm going to sell it for 50. So I paid 40 for it. And now I want to sell it. If I can't sell it, I'm up 40 grand. So I better sell it. And that's how a business works. They buy the inventory, they have to sell it. And if we sit there and go, fuck no, we aren't paying $5 for, I saw my dark chocolate was $4.60 for Lindt and the other one. I said, fuck that. I'm not paying $4.60. So what's Kroger's going to do? They're going to sit there and go, it isn't selling. We have to lower the price because the market's here, but we just made dark chocolate up here. And dark chocolate, but the buyers are down here at like $3. Nobody wants to pay $4.50 for dark. So you can, in sense of the tariffs, your costs go up, so everybody thinks prices will go up. And here's where I argue: no, it won't. Okay, I know cocoa went up, right? Cocoa went up like $1. So they want to sell it for $4.50. And we go, no fucking way am I paying $4.50 for a dark chocolate bar. I was paying about $2.50, and then it went up to $3.50, and I buy like 1. Then I go to Walmart, and there's a Swiss brand that's $2.25, $2.50. I buy that one. Now I get cocoa's gone up, but I'm not going to pay because you're stupid enough that you didn't buy more cocoa. You should have either grown it yourself or bought a big supply of it, which is what I told Toyota when I went down there. I said, you better buy a bunch of silver because silver's about to go to $1,000 an ounce, and you need it for your electric cars. And they ignored me, and I told them to fuck off then. If you're not going to listen to me, what's the point of me working here? So again, the market is here, controls the prices. The Camry at $35,000, nobody bought. They lowered it to $26,000. The market, which is us, controls everything. Just because your costs go up doesn't mean you can charge them. So you can try to charge more, but if we don't buy it, guess what you do? You got to lower your prices. Now, you might have to lay off 50 people or figure out a different way to cut your costs, or you go out of business. So the barbecue place, if they went $45 on their ribs, they'd be out of business. And 2 of their 3 restaurants closed because they probably didn't listen to me. The third guy listens to me. He's still in business. But you cannot sell ribs at 45 when the market says 30, no matter what. You can't lay anybody off. You got cooks, you got machines and rent and heat. Well, you can't get rid of that. So you got people making the ribs. You got to order the ribs. How do you lay off waitresses? They don't make anything. They're on commission, basically. Or do you lay yourself off? Or you close down. So you try to sell $45 if you can't. You go down to where the market is, 30. And so what tends to happen in the smaller places, they go out of business because people aren't going to pay the extra prices, especially now with inflation and them ruining the value of the dollar. Inflation's printing the dollar to nothing. Just like the orange juice example. It's a beautiful example. Nothing's wrong. The supply didn't go down, so therefore the price goes down because nothing happened to the oranges. And that's what you have with the dollar. You're still have a huge supply of dollars, makes the value 0. However, in the huge supply of dollars, the effect is it makes gold go through the roof because this is now worth nothing and you have to get out of it. You have to sell your dollars and buy something that will not go down in value because they keep printing these, which keeps burying the value down, down, down. So if you hold 100,000 of this, it's now worth $1,000. You've just lost $99,000 on your 100,000 that's sitting in the bank that you think you have. Your only option is to get rid of the 100,000 and buy something that you can't print, which is gold and silver. So you buy that because it'll never go down. There's never going to be a frost that ruins the oranges and limits the supply. You can't have it with the dollar. That's why we get rid of the dollars, because they are going to go just like the oranges. They're going to be in big supply, and look at the price. The price went down. That's why we buy gold and silver. That's why we get out of the dollar. And there's no other place to go but gold and silver, as all the dollars are doing this in the world, the euro, every country, except for Zimbabwe, smart enough to go on a gold-backed currency. So that's what's happening. So we can understand the players. As the U.S. tells J.P. Morgan to sell to get the price down, that's what's happening. Now you understand there's a buyer and a seller. And we got Eddie Murphy selling, because that's what he's told to do. And in this movie, Eddie Murphy was independent. He was the buyer and the seller. And that's what J.P. Morgan, Goldman Sachs are. They're actually the buyer or the seller with their own money. So they're not necessarily listening to the customer. They're basically, China's one of their customers saying, buy gold, buy gold, buy gold. And the U.S. is another customer saying, sell, sell, sell. So depending on the time of day, they're either buying or they're selling. And those are the only two customers they have, just about. And that's why you see these fluctuations. That's why it went down so much, because the U.S. is saying sell, sell, sell. But if the China's standing on delivery, they're saying, I want delivery, where does the U.S. get the gold from? Because the U.S. can't get the gold because they don't have any. All right, sorry about that. So, fortunately, I have a quick mind, so I know where I was. So that's what's happening is COMEX is basically the Fed saying sell, 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 so we can get the price down. They're trying to get out of their positions of 2,500 gold, which means they need the price of gold to go down, which will never happen because China and England, China and India and Saudi Arabia and Russia are all buying. And there's more buying going on by BRICS than selling by the U.S. And the U.S. then, the BRICS takes delivery. And now here's the problem. The U.S. then needs the gold to deliver. They don't have it. They're trying to get it. And there's no gold in Fort Knox. And there's no gold in London. They took some, and that's it. This is the problem. So when you see gold go down, like we saw it go down from 31.40 at 6 a.m. to 30.40 now, that is all U.S. selling. Now, they got to take delivery, so they're fucked because they'll never get it. And why are they shorting it? When everybody wants it, is just idiots. I mean, all you can say is the dumbest people in the world are in the U.S. telling them to sell. Why aren't they buying it? They should be buying it now, taking delivery, and then having the gold. But no. So now they got to come up with gold, which they can't, which will be very expensive because there isn't any gold to take delivery of. And they got to pay it to Russia and China, and they're fucked. So I don't know what the shortage were. I think part of it might have been customers going, they're on margin call because of the stock market. So if you do options in stock and you do leverage. So you, instead of buying 100 shares, you buy 1,000 shares with $100 instead of 100 shares with $100. So they take leverage and they buy it. But then the margin call hits and the broker says, oh, no, the stock's dropping. You got to cover it. You can't have that big of a spread on it. It's okay when it goes up, but when it goes down, you got to cover it. So I think people were selling their futures of gold. See, not everybody's as smart as us where we buy physical. They actually buy the futures. They think they're going to be smart and they leverage that. All these people now, these young kids, just want to leverage everything. They're fucking idiots. They don't realize the risk they're taking. We realize it. We don't want risk in the portfolio. We buy physical gold and say thank you. Physicals and physical silver. And we take it. So that's what's happening. So I believe it was margin calls that had people selling their gold futures to get the money to pay the margin calls on their stocks that are getting crushed because they're too stupid to understand we're in a recession. They're all like, oh, really? Yeah, I wonder why. Yeah, because of the major inflation, which nobody understands because they're taught it's prices. And then the U.S. government says, oh, it's only 1% inflation. And it's, as I tell you, you can't even measure it. It's money printing, and the value of the dollar is the inflation. And it's gone down 99%. So your inflation, three things. One, it goes back to 1971. Two, it's not prices. Three, you want to look at, let's say a house was $4,000 in 71, is now 500,000. And that's if you want to measure inflation like that, maybe. But basically, the dollar has lost 99% of its value. That's the inflation. So it's at least 99%, but you can't really percent it. It's the dollar has no value. That's the inflation, not prices. And it certainly wouldn't be year over year. If you wanted to use that, it would be at best 1971 to today. That's how you would measure inflation. Some idiot says year over year and people believe it. Yeah, I got oceanfront property in Detroit. Come on. You can believe it. I wouldn't lie about that. All right, what's going on here? Profit. Hey, Professor, how about them Cougars? Very good. Yes, Houston. I love that the Duke guy, who everybody thinks is the greatest thing since sliced bread, choked. That was my favorite part of the game, is he choked at the end. Hey, Pat, margin calls destroying the system now. I think it's UBS blowing up. UBS? Well, I think it's a combination because this is very unusual that comex sold $100 right at the time the market was crashing. So the normal structure we've been watching, gold goes down a little in the afternoon, but then it kind of flat lines, and then here comes China, which will be tonight. China's going to buy this stuff. They're probably drooling that gold's only 30, 40, and silver's 29 something. They're going to be buying silver like crazy. I hope you went and bought your silver this weekend. So what do you mean, Pat? UBS? Is that UBS, or I think it's UBS blowing up? Define that a little bit more for me, Pat. How's Singapore now? I hear it's the best place to live. I was watching it on YouTube. It's a little island like the size of New York, but it's got gold. We'll get to baseball shortly because I know there's probably a 1 o'clock game, but I wanted to get through this first because I went through this last at the end of my class, and a lot of people might not have seen it. Because I do talk trading places a lot because that's what it is. That shows you exactly what's going on because nobody really understands what's going on in comex. So there are buyers in that. So sometimes it's just it's clients. Sometimes the client is the bank. And in this case, the client, normally the client's the Federal Reserve of U.S. selling, and the Shanghai bank buying, and the Russian bank buying, the India, all the BRICS countries are normally the customer buying. And JP Morgan does the buying, and that's why it goes up, and then the selling by the US, because they're too fucking stupid to realize that there's too much demand and there's not physical, and they can't get physical to pay it off. All right. So that's what happens. That's Eddie Murphy and Dan Aykroyd trading places. I'll try to make the first segment so you can hear it. I did the same. I was just sitting on the couch and I recorded it's a 2-minute part in the movie. So I'm surprised. Maybe sometimes I have my thumb over the speaker on the bottom, and that's why it gets a little bit blocked. Pat, the PM of Singapore gave a speech yesterday of an unprecedented crisis hitting Singapore now. He was speaking of paradigm shift and that globalization and the world order is over. So, but is he telling everybody to buy gold? So is gold going to go up? Well, we know this crisis. The problem I have with the U.S., they're either the stupidest people in the world or they are doing it on purpose for some reason. And that's what I'm getting out of this. Are they doing this on purpose? Is this the way to get out of the debt? And I've thought about that. And the answer is it doesn't matter. If you default on the debt, you're fucked anyway, because your credit goes to zero. Nobody will lend you money. You still can't pay the interest. Okay, so you get rid of the interest. You still got to pay the military, Social Security, Medicare, all the government employees and their pensions. You still have to pay that, which is way more than that. The tariffs are trying to be used to generate income. The revaluing gold sounds good, but the U.S. has no gold to do it with. So we don't have 8,000 tons of gold to revalue. If they did, they would have revalued it. That shows you how long ago they ran out. It was when gold was $44 an ounce. It was when the U.S. ran out of gold. So when they go to do it, they can't because they don't have any. You can't just put gold on your balance sheet and have zero and say, "Oh, it's worth $5 trillion. We're going to revalue it at 100,000 an ounce." If you don't have it, you can't do it. You can only do it if you have it, which is why they haven't done it. They don't have the gold. We're fucked. And then as we try to buy the gold, it's got to go to the delivery of all the comex stuff and the silver, which they can't do. So this is all breaking. It'll go to Shanghai, Russia, and Dubai have metal exchanges, and that's where we're gonna get the real price on gold and silver, and it's gonna be a big one. So don't worry too much about the loss in the afternoon on Friday. Yeah, probably margin calls. It reminds me of 2008 with Madoff, right? What killed him? The margin calls. As the stock market was crashing, everybody needed money. What did they do? They pulled their money from Madoff. Does it sound familiar here? So they go to Madoff, give me my money, and he crashes because he can't get enough money in to pay off everybody going out. Buy a big shot. He had to pay off $10 billion and he had $3 million. So there's no way he could pay it off. That's why he went broke. The Russian mafia forced him to go to jail. And, I don't know why he just didn't stay in France or just go to Russia. He could have very easily went to Russia and that would have been it. Why did he come back to the U.S.? I don't understand it. And the only reason he volunteered and went to prison is the Russian mafia threatened his family, as that's what they do. So it's the same crash that blew up Madoff is blowing up comex. They can't continue to pay it off. There's no gold and silver left to pay off the stand for deliveries. It's as simple as that. So comex is broke. This July 1st thing, I don't even know if it matters whether we go Basel III because they won't be around. And as you can see how stupid the market is, where it's the banks doing all these derivatives are doing all the sell orders and all the people, but that's where we're going to make a fortune on gold and silver. All these, you saw the frenzy. Buy, sell. What do you think is going to happen here? Okay, this is worthless. This is worthless. Now you have all these people going, oh shit, these are worthless. What has value? And the only thing is gold and silver. So everybody's going to dump these. And then, as you saw the frenzy in the pit, you're going to see the frenzy for gold and silver. Only where are you going to buy it at? I mean, you're going to go to my friend's coin store and buy gold and silver there. You might. You can get a couple ounces here and there. You can probably get 500 ounces of silver there. But the big players, Luke's friend with $4 million is probably worth about $3 million now. I wonder how much people lost in their 401ks. So the guy from the barbecue has 500,000 in his 401k. I wonder what he has now. 250. I mean, you got tanked, and this week's not going to be pretty. This week's going to be also a kill. I mean, who's going to buy it? Now, they're blaming Trump's tariffs. I think they want to blame Trump for all this problem, but it's really Biden. It's really Obama and Biden and George Soros. If you really want to blame somebody, blame George Soros. You can't blame Biden because he didn't even know what day it was. It was all George Soros running it, and he did that. So that's really what it is, and I think they're trying to blame these tariffs. Now, I don't know what Trump's thinking with tariffs. I think he thinks he'll get enough money in to pay off the $37 trillion debt. He doesn't realize he's putting us in a depression. He doesn't understand what tariffs are. He's only looking at one side of it. He's only looking at, we'll get money in from China and Russia on the tariffs on everything they sell. Now, I heard somebody say the consumer pays. No. The country that's selling the goods, China, pays the tariff, not us, and certainly not the consumers. And like I said, not all prices will go up, only prices that can go up. If all of a sudden Pepsi's $10 a bottle, nobody buys it. Pepsi has to eat it. That's why it's not at $10 a bottle now, because they can't even sell it at $3. So it is not the consumer that pays for the tariff. It is the country selling to the U.S. It's China, it's Mexico, Canada are the ones that will pay. That will pay for the tariff. And what's been happening is China has been selling to Canada and Mexico to get into the free trade because of the sanctions we put on them. So Canada and Mexico are selling the goods like it's Canada and Mexico. And what he's missing is he sees this trade imbalance, which who cares if there's a trade imbalance? It's not meaningful. He sees the trade imbalance and he says, oh, shit, well, we need to tariff you because we should be even. Well, no, that's not economics. It's not even. Trade doesn't need to be even. I sell you 100, you sell me 100. I mean, if I buy this for 40 and sell it for 60, it doesn't need to tie. I don't then sell Manol and sell it for 40 and I get back 60. So it's not 40 in, 40 out. It depends on the player. It depends on the situation. As long as I make money on each transaction, I don't really give a shit if I'm in balance or not. It's, do I make money? And it helps the U.S. if we buy things from China cheap because we don't spend a lot. Oh, tennis shoes are $25 because China, or this shirt, right? This shirt probably cost me $25. Columbia is probably made in China. This is a sweatshirt. Now it might cost me $75. And guess what? I won't buy it for $75. And therefore, the tariffs won't work because we won't buy, but we won't pay for the tariff. Oh, this came from China and they sold it to us and they have to pay the tariff on it. And I don't want to buy it. China pays the tariff. We don't pay the tariff. Like I said, even the company that makes this, Columbia, doesn't pay the tariff. Now they can charge us more for it. We tell them to go fuck off. We'll buy it from somebody else where there is no tariff. So Trump really thinks he's getting the tax to pay off the debt, and it's not going to happen because demand drops because prices go up, right? So if the market's here and the prices are here and there's nobody home to buy, you got to lower your prices, and demand will sit right here. There's demand, but it's here, not here. So the tariffs, as it's spoken, will not work. He's not going to get the revenue in he thinks. He's just doing it blindly, going, oh, well, if this is what we get, and we get this tariff at 20%, we'll get 20%. No, it doesn't work that way. Profit, those 401ks are now 201ks. I don't understand. Oh, half. I don't know if he. Well, my point was, my guy had 500K in his 401k. What's it worth now? My guess is it went down to 350, maybe 400, and it depends if he was on margin. Pat, the PM of Singapore, gave a speech of an unprecedented crisis hitting Singapore now. He was speaking of a paradigm shift, that globalization and the world order is over. Yeah, the West is over. Well, the dollars are worthless. This is worth nothing, as is Switzerland, as is the euro, as is the British pound. They're all worthless. They've been worthless. But so is the Singapore dollar, China, Russia, India, and all of Japan, and all those dollars. The whole system is over. All the dollars in every country are worthless. That's what he's not saying. However, that's why you're buying gold, because gold is the only dollar with a value is gold and silver. And keeping silver at this low price is great if you can find it. But I guarantee you, I'm not selling an ounce of my silver at 29, 30, 31. I'm not selling an ounce at 100. When it hits 500, I might sell a few ounces. Until then, not a chance. All right. So let's talk about college basketball yesterday. All right. So Florida 79-73 was a 152, and where were we? We were over 159. It was high scoring in the beginning. There was about a 5-minute stretch midway in the second half where nobody scored, a lot of turnovers, then a lot of missed free throws at the end. And it was weird. Florida only got 79. Houston, we actually end up winning this, as it ends up being, I thought it was 136 and a half, but then the line moved to 137 and a half, and it ends 137, which was surprising because this was much lower. Duke didn't score the last 5 minutes of the game. The glory boy, the superstar on Duke, choked at the end, which I loved it. I didn't think he was all that. He was no Larry Bird or Magic Johnson, no Jordan. There's nothing like that. He might be a decent player in a very weak league, but he's not. He's no star. So 70-67, Houston, 137. We get Houston and Florida, which we got to bet under. If Houston only got 79 on Auburn, I doubt. And Duke only got 67 on Houston. Florida will be lucky to get 65 on that. Let's see if we have a line. Again, no line. Why the fuck can they not give a line out? All right, we got Florida -1 and 141. We're going under with Houston. We'll go 5-star. Houston under 141.5, 5 units. That's your bet for tomorrow. We'll replay it. Why would you bet a money line of -105 Houston when they're the underdog? And then Florida's the -115. So these money lines are bullshit. Why would you play money line? Just play Florida -1. I don't know what the odds are. Oh, they're 108. So why would you not lay -1 at 108? Why would you go even, which is a whole 1 point, which is impossible? Because if Florida wins, they got to cover the 1 at 115, and Houston +1 at 112. But if you money line it, it's -105. Well, take the +112. Or is this minus? Oh, it's a -112. Strange lines happening now. These lines are not accurate. A bet should be -110. So, but the totals are 141.5 is -110 is correct. So why money line? Yeah, maybe it makes sense to money line Houston, because if you think they're going to win, then they're going to win. It doesn't matter. You don't need the 1 point. And the money line Florida, you got to be out of your mind. You just lay the 1. I don't like there's so much money line going on. I think this is another analytic type of bullshit that is a joke. It's stupid. I would never bet it. I've never bet money line in my life in football. Never, ever. If the line's -7, I tease it down to 1. I'm way ahead of a money line. So I can't comprehend anybody stupid enough to bet money lines or this inline game. And yet I hear it like Alex bets inline or in game. And I just, Bobby did it. Bobby, okay, it made sense in the Super Bowl. Frisco was up 10-0 on Mahomes. Okay, that actually was a good bet. But that's it. Otherwise, just make your bet. You got to analyze the game. I think it'll be low scoring because it's Houston. They showed a lot of balls by beating Duke, which you never knew how good Duke was. I didn't like their coach. Seems like they couldn't get the ball with pressure. They fell apart, Duke. They have a 10-point lead, and they start pressuring them, and all of a sudden Duke can't throw the ball in bounds. They throw it away. The refs are terrible. Worst reffing. And what the fuck is this? They got to replay everything. Oh, let's replay it. The kid at the end of the game, there was 2.5 seconds left or something. They roll it back to 3-8, which is never, it's not the exact moment that the call is made because there's a reaction time. In other words, I see it and then I blow the whistle, takes me time, and then I call it and I say, okay, he's out. And they're not factoring that in. So even if it was 3-5, by the time I blow the whistle and call it, there's 2-5 left. That's what should be the time available. So it's a bunch of bullshit. So anyway, Florida -1, 141. We got to go under. It's Houston. Absolutely. All right, let's go to let's go to basketball today. So again, that's tomorrow at 8:50 on CBS. At least they have the brains to put it on CBS, where college football wants to show it on ESPN, which nobody has. My cable company doesn't cover it because the cost went up. So to save me my costs, they've taken ESPN out, and I'm fine. I don't like it anyway. And but when the championship game's on ESPN, I just don't watch it. Real stupid plan by ESPN because they lose viewers. What am I going to do? Buy ESPN for a day if I can even figure out how to do it? Profit. What about Chinese products that are only made in China, such as iPhones? I heard U.S. consumers can expect a 50% increase in retail prices very soon. Well, that's simply not true. They can raise the price, but it doesn't mean we're going to accept the price. So now it goes to $2,400. Do you think Apple's going to allow that? Not a chance. Because Apple knows if they make the iPhone $2,400, I wouldn't be owning their stock anymore. So nobody's going to agree to it. Nobody's going to buy it. So they can say they're going to raise the price, but that doesn't mean they can, because if the consumer is not going to pay $2,400 for the iPhone, they got to lower the price down. And I don't know that Apple, I think China puts some parts together, but not all. And it would probably move to Vietnam instead of China doing it. So Vietnam will be putting it together. So in other words, Apple will move it out of China to Vietnam. There's no tariff from Vietnam, and so it'll still be $1,600 for a phone that people have to be out of their mind to buy. I buy $100 phone. Hey, it works. Don't need a $1,600 phone. It's funny, the girls like iPhones. I don't know what that's about. Probably chatting or something. So Apple, you cannot just raise the price. You can't, oh, there's a tariff. My costs went up, so I'm going to pass it on to you. This is what I've been explaining. With inflation, you cannot just pass the price on. It doesn't work that way. Only if the market will allow it. So you can't make ribs $45. Nobody will buy it. You can't make iPhones 2,400 for an iPhone. The market's down here at 1,600. Nobody will buy it. And even then, I'm sure half of that's on discount. So you can't just raise prices and think people are going to pay. They won't. They will substitute as long as there's not just the iPhone and there's Android. I got an Android. As long as there's Androids, people will not just sit there and buy and pay all that money. Where do people, have the money for it? The inflation is making everything cost more. Oh, I'm going to pay $800 more for a cell phone? I don't think so. Sales will drop. The stock will tank. I would get out of Apple if that's what they're thinking. I'd be curious about Amazon because they probably get most of their stuff from China and the delivery and everything else. I noticed gas went up a little bit. Normally it's like $2.90 for me to fill up, and it was like $3.10 to fill up at my gas station. So I've noticed that, which will make everything else go up because you ship everything. The boats, the jets, and the trucks use gas. So they've been keeping the price down on that. Notice they haven't raised the price of gas. Well, we have inflation, but they're keeping it artificially low because it affects every other good. And we wouldn't basically have an economy with that. So you're going to not see a lot of Chinese products. They're all going to go to Vietnam or Hong Kong or Singapore or Thailand. They'll all move away and not pay the thing, or somebody else will buy it. Apple's not stupid. They won't have China do it with the tariff. They'll have somebody else make it. China's only there because of the cheap labor. But if you're going to get a tariff on top of it, and this is Trump's flaw, Trump thinks I'll make all this money on the tariff, but oh, wait a minute. Oh, you mean you're not going to have China make it for you? Oh, so I won't get any money on the tariff because the tariff, I won't get any sales because between Apple saying I'm not paying it and the consumer saying I'm not paying it, you then take it to Vietnam or Singapore, Indonesia, Thailand, somewhere else is going to make the iPhone, some cheap, probably India. And Trump, he's going to have to tariff the iPhone, not the country. So I'm putting all these tariffs on China. All China's going to have is other countries. Look what they've been doing. Mexico and Canada have been doing all their thing. So he'll find other countries, Brazil or probably India will make all this stuff because their labor will be cheap. There's ways around it. So that'll never happen. China could outsource to South Korea with their new free trade agreement. Well, they're doing it with Vietnam now. All the people are moving out of China into factories in Vietnam. That's what's happening. You're seeing all the people leave China. They're all going to other countries where there's work because of the tariffs. Russia, probably similar things, but they got all this gold, so they don't care. Putin goes swimming with the gold in his swimming pool. Jenna told me that when the last time I saw her, she says, "Well, you can just sit home alone and play with your gold." And I go, "I do." Like, she doesn't understand why I don't want to sell it. And it says, because it's going up in value. You have to be patient. At the time, it was like 2,700 in October, and now it's at 3,100. Are you starting to get the message? So that was kind of insulting to me. And I told her to fuck off because you don't get what gold is. You have to be patient and let it go. Let it run. It's going to run to $10,000, $20,000 an ounce. Then we can sell a few of it. But why would I have something that's so undervalued that's about to go and then sell it? And what was the insult for? I gave her some. So anyway, China will probably end up South Korea, Vietnam, India, and they'll send it to the U.S. And the U.S. There won't be a tariff and there won't be price increases because that's what Apple wants. Apple will probably just not sell it to China. China was cheap labor. They'll just sell it to India now. That's why India is taking over because their labor's 25 cents a day, and they'll have India make everything instead of China. And we won't get tariff money because they're not going to sell anything. China's not really rich. They have the heavy inflation. The only thing about China that's any good is they have 60,000 tons of gold. And that's why China's a superpower. They don't have a military. There's no threat of a war. China doesn't do wars. All right, let's go to baseball. It's 5 minutes to 1. And let's go. We got a 135 game, and then I wouldn't worry about a couple of them. St. Louis, Boston. St. Louis minus 102 and 9. What is this 102 crap? Andrew Palantine 1-0 with the 3.60 against Sean Newcomb 0-1 with the 9-0. St. Louis, if they're 102, then what's Boston? 102 also? Or I would take well, you'd think you would take St. Louis. Boston's got a shit pitcher. I'm going to go over 9. I think we had it yesterday and went over. So over 9 in Boston, St. Louis. I think I have one pick here. Again, it's still too early to really start picking these. When I look at Sean Newcomb, he's 0-1 with a 9 ERA for Boston, but he had one game, he pitched 3 innings and gave up 3 runs. I need more data. Yankees and the Pirates. Yankees killed them yesterday. 6-2, Pitt 2-7. The Yankees minus 170, over under of 9. Will Heron for the Yankees 0-0 with a 3.60 against Andrew Heaney 0-0 with a 1.80. So let's look at this Andrew Heaney. Is he a bullpen guy or what? He's pitched 5 innings, gave up 4 hits and 1 runs to Miami. All right, so not much of a pitcher. So I'm gonna go over in the game. Yankees, Pittsburgh. Let's go over 9. The games we've been playing, the Dodgers now 9-1 against Philly 6-2. We did not play this game. We played the game over, and it was 3-1. So we lost the over, but it wasn't a play. Here we got the Dodgers minus 130 and 7. Tyler Glasgow 1-0 with a 0 for the Dodgers. Christopher Sanchez 0-0 with a 1.69. I do recall Sanchez. I don't recall Glasgow. We're going to go under 7 in this game. Without Freddie Freeman, the Dodgers aren't scoring. They've got 1 run and 3 runs in these 2 games. Philly, good pitching, good relief. Sanchez 0-0. So instead of taking Philly, we're going to go under 7 in the game. Arizona, Washington. Corbin Burns 0-0 with a 4.15 against Trevor Williams 0-0 with a 5.40. Arizona, Washington. Arizona minus 180, 7.5. We're going to go over 7.5 with these two clowns pitching. Let's check yesterday's score. Arizona, Washington. Washington won 4-3. Washington won 4-3. We have Trevor Williams, 5-4. Yeah, that's a 7. Let's go over 7.5 today. Arizona, Washington. Corbin Burns. He was good on Baltimore, but this is the problem. Now he's at Arizona. It's a different league he's playing. I doubt he'll be the same pitcher as he was at Baltimore. Toronto and the Jets, Mets. Mets are 150-7. Bowden Francis, never heard of, 1-0 with the 3-0 for Toronto. David Peterson, 1-0 with the 3-0 for the Mets. Never heard of either of these two. I'm not sure why the Mets are favored by 150. I'll just watch. Maybe a little on the Mets. I'm sorry. The White Sox, Detroit minus 197.5. Martin Perez, 1-0 with an 0-0 against Jackson Joby. He's a rookie. He was the third pick in the draft out of high school. I hate those guys. 0-0 with a 6.75. I'm going to go over. This will be our 5-star. Take Detroit over 7.5. They hit the ball with their junkie hitters. Their pitching sucks. Chicago, their pitching's terrible. They can't hit. They got just watching the guys. I'm on the bike in the gym and I'm just watching the guys hit. They don't even know how to hit. They barely swing. Chicago, man, who's your GM? They don't know what the fuck they're doing there. Terrible scouting. They have guys that shouldn't even be in the major leagues. The White Sox are terrible hitting. We're not sure about Martin Perez and Jackson Jobe. I'm not sold by this guy, 6.75 ERA. So I think they'll be high scoring. I think Detroit will get there 7-8 runs, and then Chicago get 2 or 3. So you could go Detroit, but they're minus 190, and I don't trust Jobe with a 6.75 ERA. So I'm gonna go over. Oh, a good football game. The Houston Oilers and the Minnesota Vikings. Houston minus 102, which again I don't understand, and over under of 8.5. Blanco, who pitched the no-hitter last year, 0-1 with the 5.40 against Chris Paddock from Minnesota, 0-1 with the 24.30 ERA. I assume he pitched 2 innings and gave up 5 runs, which will balloon it because the ERA is based on 9 innings. And that's what kills me about these Tiger announcers. He only gave up 3 hits and 1 run in 5 innings. Big deal. It's 9 innings. Do it in 9 innings, fella. Then I'll be impressed. In 5 innings, I'm not impressed with that shit. So, Houston Mini, I'm going to go over, but I don't know the teams. I think Mini's got some hitters. Houston should have our one guy. What's our little guy? I can't think of him. Their shortstop. I can't think of it. Anyway, they should have enough hitters. I'm going over 8.5 with these 2 dog pitchers on it. Blanco pitches well some games, but then doesn't the others. Cincinnati, Milwaukee. This went over yesterday. Milwaukee 145, 8.5. Carson Spears 0-1 with the 1.50 against Chad Patrick 0-0 with the 3.18. I have no idea. Let's go over just because we have no idea. No units. Baltimore, KC. We got Baltimore minus 110-8. Cade Povich 0-0 in a 6.23 against Chris Bubik 1-0 with an 0-0. I'm going over Kansas City, Baltimore over 8. San Diego against the Cubbies. We got the Cubbies 135, 7.5 at home. We got Kyle Hart 1-0 at the 3.60 against Ben Brown 1-1 with the 5.87. Again, not knowing the hitting, I'm going to go over here. It's 7.5, and I got 2 dogs pitching. Tampa Bay, Texas. Tampa Bay minus 118 and 8. Where are they getting minus 118? Drew Rasmussen, 1-0 with an O against Kumar Rocker for Texas, 0-1 with an 18. Yeah, I'm going to go Tampa Bay also. Oakland against Colorado. Colorado 125. We went over in the game. First two games, they both went over. Let's see what happens here. Joey Estes, 0-1 with the 1350 against Chase Dollander. 0-0. I'm going over again. Colorado, light air, Oakland. We'll see what happens. Seattle and the Niners. We had the under yesterday. It did go under. Seattle has two players that can hit. Mr. Wu. Ric Flair's going for Seattle. Brian Wu, 1-0 with the 150. Jordan Hicks for the Niners, 1-0 with an 0-0-0. We're going to go under here anyway. 7.5. We're going under. Seattle can't hit, and with Ric Flair, should be a low-scoring 2-1 type of game. Let's make that 5 units again. San Francisco, Seattle under. It'll probably go to 10 like it did the last time. Cleveland and California. Cleveland minus 115 and 9 on the road. Louis Ortiz for Cleveland. 0-1 with a 1350 for California. Ian Anderson. 0-1 with an 11.25. We're going over, obviously. A 1350 and 11.25. The question really is their bullpens, and then even of the bullpen, who's pitching today. So we got to go over 9 with these pitchers. You see a 13 and an 11 pitching, you got to go over. St. Louis and Boston. Boston minus 125 and 9. Miles McCullough, 0-0 with the 338 against Hunter Dobbins, 0-0 with an 0-0-0. Who the hell knows? Boston, let's go over Boston. They got rained out yesterday. Aren't they playing? Yeah, they're already playing. Their game starts in a half hour, game 1. So if we see a lot of bullpen work in game 1, we'll go over in game 2. So that's it. So under, let's make it our 1 unit play under St. Louis, San Francisco, under 7.5. And our other play is going to be Detroit, Chicago, over 7.5, which Detroit will probably do by themselves. Perez against Jackson Jobe. You're not selling me that Jackson Jobe's that good. Just because you made the mistake of drafting a high school guy with the 3rd pick does not mean he's any good. We've seen this from the Tigers screw up their draft picks before. This Danny Manning guy and then the other guy the other day. They're all number 1 first-round picks, and they all suck. They all are injured. So you don't draft high school kids. I don't care. It doesn't work. It doesn't work in any sports. Moses Malone, Kobe Bryant are the only exceptions, and LeBron. Otherwise, you do not draft kids out of high school because you have no idea. They're not even playing college players, more or less pros. So you have no idea what a high school guy does against other shitty high school players, and you want to take that. You're out of your mind. So that's your baseball picks for today. I wanted to touch base on Stoic. There was a good Stoic I watched. I want to share that with you. All right, this is 5 minutes of Stoic. Five things you should never receive from people. And it's a very good lesson, especially now in today's day and age with Instagram and everything else, where you're doing things for likes. And if you do things for likes or you're doing things for approval, you're missing the point. You should like yourself and approve yourself. That's the only person you should be doing this for is yourself. I do this for myself. Do I ever tell you to like and subscribe like these other morons do? Never. If you want to like it because you like it, you should like it because you want to like it. And you want to here, these are my like videos. So I do it so I can get right to the video. I don't need your approval to do this. I need my approval to do it. And even I say, this is a good class. I will say that when I think I did a real good class, I'll approve myself. And that's what stoic is your own approval. You don't need anybody else. You don't do things for anybody else. This is why I really have a tough time at work, because I tell most of my bosses to fuck off because I'm not there for their approval. One guy was, when I was working at that really dump place, the guy mentioned like bonuses or something. And I said, I don't work for money. I don't work for approval. I don't work for money. I want to get paid for my skill set, but that's not my focus. I work to problem solve. I work to problem solve gold, to problem solve football games, baseball. That's why I do everything I do, is to problem solve. And I do it very, very well. And I don't do it for your approval. I do it for my approval, which is why I'm so successful at it. My approval is, at the end of the day, we made money in football. That's my approval. And I do it every year. But I don't do it. If you just buy my picks, you make money, but it's up to me to make the money, to have a positive outcome. And if I do that, then you should make money. And that's what it's all about. But I don't do it. I do it so you make money, but I do it so I make money. If I make money, you make money. And that's what I do, like with football or economics. I'm telling you to buy gold and silver because I figured it out. That's the key to it. You buy that, you can't lose. That's the lock. Now, you either listen to me or don't, but I don't need, if you don't approve it, like our kid who came on and bitched at me about Bitcoin, I don't care. I don't need his approval on Bitcoin. I'm not going to kiss his ass saying, oh, yeah, you're right on Bitcoin. You're wrong on Bitcoin, because I know Bitcoin is nothing. If you can't see it and you can't touch it, it isn't anything. So you can keep buying your Bitcoin. When it goes to zero, you're fucked. When we're all sitting here playing with our gold and silver and we got our mantle cards sitting in front of us, who wins here, right? Here's mantle. I got the card. I approve me. All right, let's go, Stoic.
I'm probably the only person online who shares every single one of my trades completely for
free. We don't
free.
give a fuck, buddy.
5 things you should never receive from anyone. There are 5 poisons we must never accept into our soul. They are silent, invisible, yet they rot our strength, blur our clarity, and tear us away from the path of true power. 1. Praise. Yes, even praise. Do not be deceived. What looks like gold can be rust in disguise. The man addicted to praise becomes a slave to applause. He lives not from inner truth, but from outer approval. Seneca warned, what you think of yourself is much more important than what others think of you. When we begin to crave validation, we abandon our self-governance. Every word of praise becomes a chain, because now we need more. We need it louder. We need it again. But the one who moves in silence, who builds in the dark, who does what is right without needing to be seen, he is untouchable. He is free. 2. Permission. The weak wait for permission to begin, to speak, to act, to live. But the strong know there is no gatekeeper except themselves. Marcus Aurelius wrote, you have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength. Waiting for someone to grant us worth.
That's probably the most important thing you should learn out of anything Stoic, is you can only control your mind and yourself, and you can't control other people. So if somebody doesn't like you, or if a girl breaks a date, or something happens, we can't control it. We can only control what we do. So if you do something, that's all you can control. The reaction, you can't control how somebody's going to perceive you. But that doesn't mean it's bad. It just means all you can do is control what you can do. I can control this class. I can teach baseball. I can teach this. If you like it or you don't like it, I can't control. I'm not going to get upset. If you don't like my class, I can't get upset. that's my fault. And then what is it you don't like about it? But I don't get a lot of those comments. I get where a lot of people like the class, so I'm doing something right. But all I can control is me doing this, going to the gym, watching the games, whatever, whatever. That's all I control. Picking the football, picking the baseball. I can control it, and that's what I do. All right.
Is like asking the storm to calm before we walk. It will not. We must walk anyway. You were not born to beg for acceptance. You were not made to knock and wait at someone else's door. You were made to become a fortress of self-command. Not arrogance, but unshakable self-trust. Not rebellion, but quiet sovereignty. We must learn to say, I do not need you to tell me I am ready. I do not need you to agree with my fire. I only need to keep walking. 3. Never receive pity. Pity is not compassion. It is condescension disguised as care. When someone pities you, they do not see your strength. They see your weakness. And worse, they speak to it. They confirm your lowest fears about yourself. But we are not to be seen as broken, even when we bleed. The Stoics taught that dignity must be upheld, especially in hardship. Epictetus said, "It is not things themselves that disturb us, but our opinions about them." When you receive pity, you're tempted to adopt the opinion that you are small, helpless, less. Do not accept it. Your trials are not curses, they are chisels. Let them carve you, let them forge you, but never let them make you someone who needs pity to survive. We are not victims of life, we are its students, and students of pain become masters of power if they never kneel to pity. 4. Never receive validation as a necessity. There is a difference between appreciating recognition and depending on it. When we build ourselves on praise, we become slaves to the applause. The moment it fades, we wither. But the Stoic does not bloom only in the light of others' approval. Marcus Aurelius reminded himself, ambition means tying your well-being to what other people say or do. Sanity means tying it to your own actions. Validation is a shadow. It moves with the sun and disappears when you need it most. So we must not crave it. We must not build our self-worth on borrowed words. When we act with virtue, discipline, and reason, when our compass is internal, then no one can grant us worth, because no one can take it away. We walk not to be seen, but because we have somewhere to go. 5. Never receive fear as a gift. There are those who offer fear through threats, manipulation, silence, or chaos. They wrap it in sharp glances or poisoned words, but we do not accept it. We do not wear fear like a chain. Seneca once wrote, "He who fears death will never do anything worthy of a man who is alive." And we might add, he who accepts fear from another will never live as one who is free. Fear, when received, becomes a leash. It keeps us small, reactive, compliant. But fear, when observed and understood, becomes power. We do not run from it. We burn it into fuel. So when they try to give us fear, we answer with stillness, with reason, with an inner calm that cannot be invaded, because the one who owns himself cannot be owned by anyone. And so we walk forward, not louder, not faster, but deeper, with calm minds sharpened by discipline, with hearts untouched by the chaos around us, because true power is not in how many follow us, but in how little can move us. And subscribe for more wisdom to guide your journey.
Don't you just love Marcus Aurelius? Where were these things when I was younger? Absolutely. What can I say? That's what we have, and that's how you live. You don't let other people rent space in your head, tell you what to do. I mean, this is why at work I really have a hard time working for other people. I don't want to hear their bullshit. I don't take their bullshit. Um, when they said your job was eliminated, I just laughed. I really didn't get all like upset. I just really laughed. That was it. I mean, it's like you got to be kidding. You're letting me go, the smartest kid here. You're letting go. Okay, good luck to you. That's why I buy gold. I don't want anybody controlling me or owning me. Right? I keep myself. I control myself and own myself, and that's why I got this, and that's why I got gold and silver. This allows me to be nobody own me. When I'm forced to work, I'm forced to that. The Social Security, to me, the Social Security is like a job at the bank. It's going to pay me about the same, only I don't have to pay taxes on the Social Security. And I really can't even work at the bank because then I would get that. I wouldn't get Social Security. Well, what would be the point? I'd rather get the Social Security and not have to work than work to get what I would get with the Social Security. Which again, tomorrow is my first Social Security since this whole doggy thing with Trump and Musk. Now I called them and they said it shouldn't be a change, that I should get Social Security tomorrow. It's the second Wednesday of the month, but I get it on Monday. So they said you're fine. So I'll believe it when I see it. But I should get it tomorrow morning, about 8 o'clock, and hopefully I get it. And that's kind of my paycheck, and then I can pay some credit cards and help Daria. And that's how I lay. I pay rent. I basically pay rent with it, and credit cards and Daria with it, and and then a little bit of money with that. So my plan is the longer I go without having to trade in gold, that's why I keep some money in the safe. The longer I can go without zeroing out the money and having to sell gold to get more money, the better it is, because as we know, gold's going to go. So if I can trade it in at 5,000 an ounce instead of 3,000 an ounce, I make an extra 2,000 an ounce that I can't make if I trade in the gold now. So that's why I kept some money. And then I get to do unemployment tomorrow, so I can make some more money. I think there was something on Mark McGuire here. Well, let's show you this.
That Apple phones made in India had only defend our rights, defend our rights, Foxconn, defend our rights. On the morning of March 26, 2025, around 500 mid-level supervisors at the Foxconn factory in Taiyuan, Shanxi, went on strike. They were protesting the company's decision to remove their management titles. Several workers said they were notified the day before that their management roles would be eliminated. This would mean a cut of about 1/3 of their salaries. Many of them were outraged. They felt that after working hard for the company for so many years, Foxconn was now using this underhanded move to pressure them into quitting. That morning,
that shows me there's problems in the economy in China, that they're cutting pay, and then if you don't like it, leave. It just shows you how bad the economy is in China. So everybody says China has a good economy, they don't, and they're going to lose a lot more with the tariffs. It's going to force China to, it'll force the companies like Apple to send things to India and everything. I think that was coming up, where India will start making them to offset what Profit's saying. But this tells me the damage of the economy between Evergrande and the other housing. They've lost tons of money in the housing sector. They don't have a stock market really, so the people are buying gold, which the government will probably keep, and they're communists, so the Chinese will fuck everybody over.
Workers gathered in front of the Foxconn labor union building in Taiyuan, demanding an explanation from company management. At the protest, a supervisor named Jiang spoke with workers and said the company would temporarily hold off on removing their roles. He promised a clear answer in early April, but many workers didn't believe him. They suspected that it was just another delay tactic, something they said Foxconn often does. They pointed out that over the past 2 years, the company had repeatedly used the threat of removing management roles to force them to take on extra tasks. Foxconn is one of Apple's biggest suppliers. The Taiyuan plant mainly produces metal casings and other precision components. Layoffs at Foxconn have long been a topic. At the beginning of 2023, Foxconn announced plans to invest $4.8 billion in a new factory in India, promising to create 100,000 jobs there. In late July.
So there you go. They're moving it to India. No tariffs there. Now we know what Foxconn is, Apple, and they got to cut because Apple, with the tariffs, is not going to be able to sell as much. So Apple's reducing theirs, which shows problems with Apple. They're not going to sell as much. They're going to lose jobs. They're cutting their employees. So if you have Apple stock, I would suggest you get the fuck out of it as quick as possible. It's not going to hold. Their sales will drop. Their revenues will drop. Their stock will drop. So get out of it. So now we know who Foxconn is. They make stuff for Apple. All right. Very good. So I'm waiting for her to come up with the new one, the silver squeeze alert person who said, oh, we're going to silver squeeze, and it didn't do anything. So I think she did a new video, and I just laughed at it. It was like, sorry, you're an idiot. Mark McGuire had something good yesterday. Let's see what Mark said.
Looking at where gold and silver market structures have settled following literally billions of unbacked February gold and silver options and the OCC bets. You remember we talked about the OCC bets, which are the Office of the Comptroller bets. They're listed, they're a quarterly report, and it shows 5 banks with short gold and silver positions or gold and derivative gold and silver positions. And they all had to be marked. Everything had to be marked to a market price, i.e., you pay up or you lose or you win. And that happened ahead of last Thursday's, what we call First Notice Day, which is where any gold futures, positions, OCC bets like that, any that could not be paper settled had to be fully funded and then stood for physical delivery. That is particularly the case in the comex. And it became clear that comex open interest, i.e. the number of 4% gold-backed gold chips, and they're not gold, of course, they're casino chips, but they're backed by kind of 4% gold. And these casino chips are lent out into the market by the casino. But what we've been noticing is that this open interest, well, these chips have been actually contracting, reducing into a rise in the gold price. What that telegraphed was that the official sellers, pit managers, i.e., were capitulating bearish bets against gold into what is a physically driven rally that's got away from them. In fact, even the deliberately stale dated, we only get the odd report, nothing from the LBMA, but the COMEX is required to do a weekly report, and it's so stale dated, it's ludicrous. It could be published every day, at the end of every day, much like TOCOM used to do years ago and suddenly stopped for some reason. Why? Because we drew attention to it. But these reports that get published could be, as I say, could be published, could be reported at the end of every day. They're delayed by 3 solid days. So when they come out, it's almost pointless, other than it does provide some footprint. But these reports, these COT reports, as we call them, what they're actually evidencing, and it's impossible to hide, is that into a rising gold price, gold futures contracts are not anywhere close to being historically overbought and continue to look bound for $3,000, which will then become the next higher stair step to $35. As we've been consistently tracking, this is a very, very similar setup to
meant 3,500.
what we witnessed after the Shanghai Futures Exchange launched last March.
Let's get one thing straight right off the bat. What's happening in these gold and silver markets isn't accidental, and it sure as hell isn't organic. You're looking at a system that's been engineered for decades to suppress price discovery in order to protect a broken fiat system that's increasingly on life support. And now, that game is coming undone in real time. Now, let's break this down for our viewers who may be hearing about this for the first time. When we talk about the COMEX, we're talking about a casino. A derivatives casino where gold and silver are not bought or sold. They're bet on. You've got billions of dollars of unbacked gold and silver contracts, futures, options, and
Eddie
more
Murphy.
that never ever result in the actual physical delivery of metal. These are just chips, paper chips. And the astonishing part is this. The gold and silver backing these paper contracts is maybe 4% of what's actually traded. Think about that. It's the same as selling 25 movie tickets for every one seat in the cinema and hoping most people just don't show up. But what happens when people do show up and demand a seat? That's what's happening now. We're seeing this open interest, these outstanding contracts on COMEX contracting into a rising gold price. That's not how a normal market behaves. What that tells us is that official sellers, the bullion banks, the pit managers, are backing off. They're covering shorts. They're capitulating because this isn't just a speculative run-up. This is a physical market-driven rally. And for the first time in a long time, the physical market is biting back. Now, what's the catalyst? Look no further than Basel III. Basel III regulations, which reclassify gold as a Tier 1 asset equal to cash, have fundamentally changed the rules of engagement. The fractional reserve gold system the LBMA and COMEX relied on, that's dead under Basel III. Banks now need to own the metal if they want it on their balance sheets. That's a game changer. It's no longer profitable or even possible for these bullion banks to keep naked shorting gold and silver without severe regulatory cost. We've also got first notice day. That's when all these options, these OCC bets, the Office of the Comptroller of the Currency shows 5 major banks with massive gold and silver derivative exposure. Those contracts come due. If they can't be settled in cash, they need to be backed physically. And the way the COMEX is structured, when more people start standing for delivery, and I mean actual truck the metal out of the warehouse delivery, the wheels start coming off. And let's not forget the deliberate opacity of this market. We get partial data, delayed COT reports, often 3 days late, which could easily be published daily. The LBMA, forget it. Try finding real-time data there. These are institutions that thrive in the shadows. And why wouldn't they? The last thing they want is a fully transparent, physically settled marketplace that exposes how mispriced these metals really are. Let me give you some numbers here. COMEX gold futures are nowhere near historically overbought levels. Open interest is well below the 600,000 threshold that typically signals a top. This is a strong setup. Gold's push to $3,000 isn't just probable. It's probable and then some. And $3,500? That's the next stair step. We're stair stepping higher because the physical demand can no longer be ignored. It's not a short squeeze from hedge funds. It's central banks, sovereigns, and even institutional players who've never bought gold before, suddenly waking up. They're seeing the writing on the wall. In fact, if you compare this setup to what we saw when the Shanghai Gold Exchange opened its futures contracts last March, it's deja vu all over again. Back then, technical traders kept calling for a top, blind to the fact that Chinese physical buying was leading the price action. Not COMEX, not New York, China. Physical metal, not paper bets. We saw a significant rally follow, and guess what? This time it's even bigger. And while these analysts are still using old models, anchored to the dollar, to bond market correlations that no longer hold, they're mispricing gold completely. Gold is breaking every model because we've shifted to a different regime. The price is no longer tied to dollar strength, or treasury yields, or Fed credibility. That game is over. Basel III rewrote the rule book.
Do not buy new windows if you live in Michigan. Americans living in starting with 48 and 49.
Or Fed credibility. That game is over. Basel III rewrote the rule book, and now we've got one bank, just one, still trying to manage the dollar price of gold, the Federal Reserve. But they're alone now. The Bank of England, not even a player. The ECB done. The Swiss, long gone. Silver always lags until it doesn't. And when it runs, it runs. As we've seen in
Well, again, you can't say what happened in silver in 2008 and say that's what's going to happen now, because now it's free market. And it's not on to whatchamacallit. It's not what is it? Basel 3. Silver's not Basel 3 yet, where you take delivery on it. So they're still playing the game with silver. That's why silver keeps running behind. Gold, Basel 3, they write the contract, they stand for delivery, you got to deliver. That's not what's happening in silver, but it's coming. And when it does, then you'll see silver run. And we have no idea how silver's going to run. Like I say, it's like saying, well, Mays is going to run twice as much as Mantle. Well, you have no idea. We know Mantle's going to run. We know he's the most popular. We know Mays is probably the second most popular. So he's going to run. But there's no correlation between the two. How far Mantle runs and how far Mays runs is all independent on the demand for each player and the price. So when they say, well, silver's going to run and get 10-1 on gold, that's bullshit. You have no idea. Silver's going to run because it's a lot cheaper than gold and it's money. And the people are realizing the money's worthless and they can't get gold because it's 5,000 an ounce or 10,000 an ounce. They will jump into silver. And sure, once they start jumping $35 an ounce, you'll never see again. You won't see $100 an ounce again. So it'll move to 1,000 an ounce because you can't afford gold at 10,000. Now, a lot of people are rich can't, but a lot of people who aren't rich are going to do that. So keep that in mind. And I don't buy the industrial use on silver either. I think that's stupid. Again, if something is the platinum and palladium went way up because they were using catalytic converters. They didn't keep the price down at $30 so the cars could make catalytic converters, and use the platinum and palladium cheaper. Silver is being price fixed because it can be, and that game is up July 1st. So I know it's frustrating you're going, well, gold's going up because of Basel 3, and silver's not Basel 3 yet. Don't know why, but it will be July 1st. It will be, and we're in April. So May, June, that's 2 months. Well, we got April, May, and June. It's 3 months. And then we're going to see the fireworks for silver. So that's why I say don't get upset. Just keep buying and buying and buying, knowing it's $1,000 an ounce and you're getting it for, well, now you're getting it for 31 an ounce. My guy's $2 over spot. People are stupid. Just take advantage of them. Be stoic. Just you control yourself. What they want to do, all you can do is laugh at it. All right.
Cycles. Once gold punches through resistance, say $3,000, silver won't just tag along. It will outrun gold with double or triple the torque.
No,
That's
necessarily.
where we are right now.
Wrong.
Silver is still criminally undervalued, underheld, and misunderstood, but not for long. This isn't just a gold and silver story. This is a monetary story. This is about trust and the fiat system, saddled with $300 trillion in global debt, fractured by geopolitical distrust, and facing a confidence crisis, is running out of runway. Central banks know it. Sovereign wealth funds know it. The bullion banks know it. The only question is,
and the professor
you know it. If you're still waiting for the green light to diversify out of fiat and into real assets, consider this your signal. It's not a warning anymore. It's a call to action. Stack smart, stay informed, and watch this space. Because what's coming next, it's going to rewrite the entire monetary chapter.
Where futures market top callers had failed to discern that it was Chinese physical market dragon that was wagging the COMEX paper market tail, and we saw a significant rally ensue. Now, this is where it gets interesting, as many technical traders who keep calling gold market tops have not realized that historical dollar and bond market correlations are broken. And this means that all trend lines that were anchored before the Bank of International Settlements revalued gold as a first-year asset class 2 years ago are consistently mispricing gold futures extrapolations.
So that's like Tom Brady's not at New England anymore, and you still want to use New England trends. or Peyton Manning's no longer at Indy, he's at Denver, or Stafford's not at Detroit, he's on the Rams. As these guys move and everything changes, they're not changing. They're looking at it. They don't understand variables change, which just blows my mind. That's why I laugh at technical analysis people. They don't know what they're doing. Oh, you can use technical. You can't because of the variables. I don't have Peyton Manning on Indy anymore. I don't have Brady on New England anymore. He's on Tampa. I can't even use the old Tampa ones because that's not with Brady. So you have to keep constantly changing your variables, and that they don't get it. And I think I'm one of the rare who do.
These so-called false overbought signals are actually stair-step by stair-step being overcome. Now, obviously, this strong move into gold has largely been driven by global-facing central bank, sovereign, and institutional physical demand, forcing the market makers with a footprint in both the physical and the paper markets, as well as obviously the cash-settled comex paper markets, to race to buy back asymmetrically imbalanced bets, i.e. bets that are not one-to-one backed, they are skewed to the short side, so they're imbalanced. So they're forced to when we see these things happen and the physical market starts to take control, they're forced to cover these imbalanced bets against paper market gold. Now this represents an unprecedented change in behavior which rails against the only remaining central bank trying to manage the dollar price of gold, but with the Fed, of course. But with Basel III compliance closing in on US markets on the 1st of July, they're beginning to fold their hand early. Also, with gold outperforming every other asset class, a rising gold price has not gone unnoticed by fund managers who've never looked at gold investments before, and this massive move into gold has only just begun. This opens up an enormous amount of buying that was never there before.
Let's start right where we left off with
more demand. I'm selling the Maze card. Now I get pension funds wanting it. I get I get the baseball people. But now I'm getting the inflation people and I'm getting the pensions. Now there's more and more demand for Willie Mays, and the price then goes up, up, up. Because now there's 100 people wanting this card and they're going to be bidding against each other. And that's what's happening in gold and silver. Now people are starting to notice at $3,000, hey, maybe I need gold. Yeah, maybe everybody was wrong about it. All the Keynesians who said, oh, it's a pet rock. Now they realize it's a major asset that you should have. It's a lock. You can't lose on it. It's going up because you can't print it. It's very limited, but highly demanded, which forces price up. So I should buy some. People are so stupid.
silver. See, the thing with silver is that it's been the most manipulated commodity on the planet, bar none. And that's not a theory. It's documented, provable, and playing out in real time. We're not talking about some wild conspiracy scribbled on a napkin in a pub. We're talking about actual mechanics that are visible to anyone who knows where to look. Let's zoom in on what's happening right now on the comex. Silver has been trading at what looks like a lull on the surface. You get your rinse cycles, your short-term washouts, and the price pulls back to the 31 level. But that's a paper illusion. The minute those speculators were shaken out, those casino players who jumped in long with borrowed money and no physical interest, the real buyers stepped in. And who are those buyers? It's not retail. It's not Reddit traders. It's sovereigns. It's Chinese buyers, Saudi money, Indian refiners, Russian buyers, and non-bullion bank commercial traders who understand one thing very well. This paper game is ending. Let me break this down clearly. At spot silver around $31, availability for immediate local London delivery simply doesn't exist. You can't just walk in and get size at that price. Yes, you can still buy silver, but you're going to have to pay a lot more than COMEX says the price is. That tells us one thing. COMEX and LBMA prices are a distortion. They do not reflect the physical supply-demand reality. distortion. They do not reflect the physical supply-demand reality. And refiners, they've pivoted. The economics of refining right now favor gold, not silver. So when you place a bulk order for kilo bar silver, they tell you, we'll get to it later. We're doing gold first. That's not a small issue. That's a systemic red flag. What's the result? It's forcing major buyers to target comex 1,000-ounce bars, taking maximum allowable deliveries under the rulebook, 3,000 lots or 465 metric tons at a time, and they're not rolling the position. They're not moving it from registered to eligible. No, they're loading the trucks. This isn't smoke and mirrors. This is metal out the back door, headed east. Let me put it into perspective. This is the largest physical silver delivery event since the Hunt brothers in 1980. And unlike back then, the silver isn't staying in the comex warehouse. It's being exported to Shanghai, Mumbai, Dubai, and Istanbul, markets where the price reflects real supply. The game is different now. They can't just halt trading and say, sorry, you can't buy anymore. That trick's been played, and everyone saw it. And while all this is happening, the comex silver open interest has remained extremely lean. In fact, it's almost laughable that traders still look at RSI and MACD and call silver overbought. What we're witnessing is a structural dislocation between a manipulated futures market and an exploding physical demand base. It's a coiled beach ball, and once it springs loose, it's going vertical. Now let's talk about something most analysts miss entirely. Exchange for physical, EFP spreads. These are arbitrage trades between comex and local London pricing. And what we've been watching, particularly over the last